Hey guys, welcome back to the Buzz Weaver channel for this special election 2020 edition. As things continue to unfold in real time, I wanted to bring you guys some additional coverage and information concerning what is going on in this current election for 2020. If you are new here to the channel, I'd like to welcome you guys here, or if you're a returning visitor and or subscriber, I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support.
Okay guys, welcome back to Studio B, where we have all of our data and information that we'll be covering for today. As mentioned in the intro, all of these links will be posted for you below this video. So, as you know, despite the fact that the media has been touting quite vehemently that Joe Biden is the president-elect, as well as Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, that is not entirely accurate, and whether or not the platforms will then fact check them is another story. So we're going to start it off today with how and when are elections results finalized 2020. And as you can see here, we'll just go straight to the actual information that we want to look at. So here in the state of Georgia, we have until November the 20th. These are now not in alphabetical order, so I was just trying to find Georgia. I may have to actually do a search for Georgia. Let's see, here we go, Georgia. Yeah, November the 20th, and I believe the last of them all is in California on December the 11th. But we'll go more into detail about the Electoral College and the voting and the deadlines here as we go along. But of course, the big news, the big news was that yesterday on Monday, Real Clear Politics, which is an American political news site and polling data aggregator, created in 2000. And I like Real Clear Politics because I kind of consider it where the news goes for its news. So you can find great polling information here, which is aggregated over the various news channels and platforms that do polling. So what we see here, which everyone was quite excited about yesterday, is in the presidential race. You see they have reversed Pennsylvania. So Biden and Harris, who are not the elect in this particular circumstance as of now, they are at 259 versus Trump's 214. So there is a pathway to victory for the president just by votes in the Electoral College. So that's an avenue that is being explored, of course. So if the president can pick up Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, that should seal the deal. Of course, he might need some additional states out here in the West. Excuse me there, guys. One moment. All right, so that's where we are right now with this, and we can already see kind of the anxiety level starting to rise within the Democrats. Now, I've not seen any of the other networks jump on board with the Real Clear Politics change, but of course, we know legally that that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are not the elect at the moment. So if we look over here, another rather controversial issue that happened yesterday was during the Kayleigh McEnany interview, where even Fox News turned away. So what we're seeing right now, guys, is the mainstream media and others hedging their bets. Why is that? Well, there are several reasons why, and we'll kind of go a little bit into that detail here in a moment. But what I wanted to point out here was that, yeah, Fox News did turn away, and it's interesting because what Kayleigh was saying is there is only one party that opposes voter ID, verifying signatures, verifying citizenship, residence, and eligibility. There is only one party in America trying to keep observers out of the count room. You don't take these positions because you want an honest election. So what could be argued here, and what I have been seeing and talking about with other people, is that Joe Biden did a C- performance. Now, I'm not saying that to disparage the man or the campaign. I'm simply saying that they utilized the pandemic to just target what they absolutely needed. What do I absolutely need to get by? And so we heard for many years about the Electoral College, how the president wasn't legitimate, the popular vote. We don't use popular vote in the United States. If we use popular vote, then only Florida, Texas, California, and the city of New York would decide who our presidents are, and then the rest of the other states would be left, obviously not having their say in the democratic process. So this was a very interesting video from yesterday. I highly encourage you guys to watch it. I will link it, of course, below this video. Now, of course, Mayor Rudy Giuliani, the country's mayor, has appeared across many networks, including some of my favorite commentators here on YouTube, to include Steven Crowder. And he outlined quite a number of different lawsuits that are being put out there. They have obviously had an effect because yesterday Real Clear Politics removed the count from Pennsylvania. Now, the thing here that I want to emphasize that's very important is that we know President Trump has a tendency to kind of say certain things that maybe he shouldn't say, the way he words them, the way he tries to articulate. He's not the most articulate of individuals, and he likes to think out loud. The problem here is that the president keeps saying voter fraud. Now, voter fraud is an actual crime, right? It's where individuals are trying to engage in an activity to defraud, to create information that isn't accurate or true. So fraud, right? Trying to be deceptive. That's an actual crime. That's a legal claim. The problem is that, like Rudy Giuliani is saying, and even Ken Starr, is it needs to be impropriety, right? So what they need to show is a level of impropriety. Now, voter fraud would fall under that impropriety. So making that claim of voter fraud, I think, was a very dangerous, slippery slope for the president. But of course, he's Donald Trump, so he's going to make these kind of comments because, he's Donald Trump. So another interesting factor here is on Fox News, of course. We've seen even Bret Baier kind of turning his back on the president. And this is not unusual because you got to keep in mind how influential and how powerful the president and his administration is, not just within the boundaries of the government itself, but outside of it, because we already know, based upon the data, for example, if the Republicans win the Senate and, of course, gain additional seats in the House, Biden would be a lame duck president. In other words, he would be blocked from doing a whole ton of things that he may be trying to do and may have to resort to executive order to be able to even get anything done. So those of you who may be panicking about Biden becoming president, which is a possibility, I'm not suggesting or implying in any way right now as we cover this information that it's a sure deal for the president. So just keep in mind that if Biden does seem to make it, then he will be essentially a lame duck president. So Tucker Carlson, of course, is probably one of the few that will still kind of stick up for the president. And Judge Jeanine was actually suspended from Fox News as she got into an argument. So I don't know maybe how much influence Rupert Murdoch has. He's an Australian American, which really doesn't mean much. I mean, he did grow up as an Australian, so maybe he has particular proclivities for a particular government design than what we have here. I don't know. I don't want to make any accusations about Rupert Murdoch and his son, but nonetheless, so those are some of the changes that we have seen at Fox News. Now, here on Twitter, I just want to mention here a very interesting perception is happening, right? We've seen Joe Biden come out and say he's ready to heal the country. He's ready to bring everybody together. He's ready to say the platitudes that need to be said because apparently, as I say in my tweets here, the progressive cancel culture, a spawn of the resistance movement, that goes back to 2016, wants to start bringing out the French Revolution guillotine. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and our laws have always been for the people. The left couldn't psychologically or emotionally reconcile Trump. That is one of my lines of argument. How is it that you change the party letter next to a person's name and then suddenly the country is back on track? That's really kind of impressive. I even went so far as to suggest that if people wanted to hear platitudes and feel-good speeches, they could just watch Tony Robinson. All right, so over here, of course, we have seen from Caitlin Collins of CNN, a gathering of individuals, what was always called when the president had his rallies, super spreader events. So kind of yesterday, Gabe, the Secretary of State's office there, mentioned that apparently the pandemic that I can't mention by name has been cured because obviously the individuals are out there celebrating the victory. And I don't blame any of them. I'm not angry at any person for celebrating something that they're excited about. But again, how is it that they could not psychologically and emotionally reconcile the fact that someone they didn't like was actually benefiting the country? How is it that by simple mere words and a person can just change attitudes? And of course, I'm being kind of hyperbolic and cynical and sarcastic because we know it's a mindset. Happiness and joy is a mindset. Being angry is not oppression. Feeling angst is not oppression. Your property, your business, your money, your bank accounts weren't seized. You weren't in prison because President Trump was the president. Okay, let me just breathe for a minute. Now, one of the strategies that we have talked about that was employed, as we mentioned earlier, with the 30-day canvassing of certain areas of the country to ensure an electoral victory. I wanted to point out this again because from Tom Woods, he is a political, he's a political professor. Yeah, he's a political scientist at Ohio State. And what I wanted to point out, something that we have discussed, another strategy that was implemented, of course, as we all know, the Democrats worked alongside the mainstream media. The mainstream media perceives itself as the fourth branch of government. They feel that their influence, that their power is the one that decides how people should think, what they should think, what people's opinion should be. And of course, they couldn't stand that the President of the United States had a position of power and influence that they didn't. And so, of course, they had to always, what did I just say? They had to always challenge him, undermine his authority, and always, of course, mock him. As you can see here, their strategy to simply make Joe Biden the most popular kid in school was a miserable failure in the polling. I mean, they were so terribly bad. The average negative 7.3, but it didn't matter, guys. It was an illusion. It was a tactic. It was a strategy to make Joe Biden the most popular guy in school. So when they go out and they do their 30-day canvassing, they can get people to vote for Biden because, hey, look, you know, everybody thinks he's going to win. So here on the Twitters, of course, I always did find it amusing that the left couldn't psychologically or emotionally reconcile the fact that someone they didn't like was benefiting the country. Angst isn't oppression. If you wanted platitudes and feel-good speeches, you could have just listened to Tony Robinson. Tim Cast, who I would, or actually his name, well, Tim Pool, his real name is Chris, but Tim has some excellent coverage. He is growing like crazy. He's already at 1.5 million subscribers on his Timcast channel. He is a professional journalist. He has covered conflict across the world. He was very well known at Vice News that still exists. He recently just on his In Real Life podcast interviewed the current executive from Vice News just the other day. But if you guys want some really good coverage of election and politics and things that are going on, definitely go by and see Timcast, his official channel where he does his quote-unquote technical journalism or his more professional level journalism is on Tim Pool. People get confused quite often between Timcast and Tim Pool because of the URL up here at the top of the screen, but Tim Pool is how you can locate him. And here on this channel, he's at 1.19 million subscribers. And Tim, as well as Styx, get nearly as much, if not more, viewers than even CNN and some of the mainstream media because everybody is kind of shifting to alt tech. So as I mentioned here, hang on one second, guys. Speaking of alt tech, I know a lot of people are making the shift to Parlay, which is very similar to Twitter and kind of like Facebook. So if you guys are making the shift to Parlay, you can find me at Buzz Weaver here on Parlay. Those links, of course, to my tech sites are below the video. So if you guys are joining Parlay, be sure you go by and add me to it. And things are really going well here on Parlay. Just from my Facebook friends, we are up to 87 followers, which is quite nice. So I appreciate all those who are following me there. Also want to take a moment and recognize my friend Tom Girl Gamer. I did a live stream the other day, and she was generous enough to send me a donation via a stream. She is also a gamer, but she is also an actress. You can find her in some of your favorite television shows like The Walking Dead and Watchmen. She has also appeared in some of the blockbuster films out there from Marvel and some comedies. If she wants to comment down below, she can tell you what movies and TV shows that she is appearing in and where you can see her. And then, of course, one of our super fans, Mel Peck Fam from the Lost History channel. I do voiceover work there for that particular channel. I'm not sure why Light Up the Dark is appearing here, but the Lost History channel is just over 100,000 subscribers. Not too long ago, the channel received its beautiful silver play button. So if you guys have not, be sure you can go by and check out the Lost History channel. Light Up the Dark is just a secondary channel that I also do voiceover work for. So we actually have, I think, over a total of 170,000 total subscribers for that part of the YouTube business. Now, of course, the other day, as I have mentioned before, I did get a demonetized limited ad status on my channel, of course, or on the video here, because I mentioned certain names and mentioned the pandemic by one of its other names with the number in it. And, of course, some individuals and others who have been banned from the platforms. And, of course, the social media sites work as a duopoly. So that means that, what do they call it, modified observable behavior, whatever is kind of their excuse to say, well, if someone behaves this way on YouTube, then they're probably doing it on Twitter, they're probably doing it on Instagram. If you didn't know, guys, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg owns Instagram. So what happens on Instagram and or on Facebook can also be applied to Instagram and vice versa. Frequently asked questions here concerning the election, and this is the one that is the key point of a discussion, because as these lawsuits continue, as the president continues to fight this, we will get to a date, December the 14th, if the president can hold it out, if he can get to December the 14th, some very interesting things start to happen. You guys may recall back in December of 2000 when they had the Bush v. Gore after the safe harbor dates for Florida's election, right? The court's ruling settled a controversy over an automatic recount in Florida, and it was issued quickly because of the impending December 14th meeting of the Electoral College. So this is when the Electoral College has to come to its decision. Now, we showed you earlier that in Georgia, it's November the 20th, and in California, it is December the 3rd. In the current election, according to the Washington Post, at least 12 significant presidential election lawsuits were in federal courts as election day started, and another suit was filed on election day in suburban Philadelphia about the handling of mail-in ballots. Still more are in the works as of Friday. So, of course, as you know, Real Clear Politics has pulled their electoral points from their prediction here. So, perhaps the most prominent, the emergency request in the Republican Party of Pennsylvania versus Bakvar declined by an equally divided Supreme Court on October 19th. Okay, so that's a different situation. Of course, the votes for presidents are actually votes for a slate of electors. Okay, so in Canada, for example, they vote for a party. That party selects the prime minister of their country. In the United States, we have something very similar. It's the electors that actually select the president and the vice president. So based upon how the people vote in the United States, within the state, the electors make the determination of who the president will be. All right, guys, so picking up where we left off there. So the electors who cast ballots in the Electoral College, a gathering held in the 50 states and the District of Columbia on an appointed day in December after the election. So the interesting thing here, of course, is during the Electoral College meeting on December the 14th, another possible controversy could involve a faithless elector who decides to cast his or her vote for a different presidential candidate. So, in other words, if, say, like in Georgia here, a lot of the votes appear to be for, say, President Trump, or something comes out to where it's President Trump, but this whole entire time it has been for Biden, one of these electors can say, you know what, I think it's going to be Biden. And some states can disregard a vote cast by a faithless elector. The Supreme Court's unanimous July 2020 decision and this case here affirmed that the state laws penalizing. Okay, so each state has its own penalties if there is a faithless elector. So if you guys want to learn more about it, you can go to fairvote.org. Tracks the faithless elector law across America, so you can kind of see like what they can or can't do. Things start to become real interesting around December the 23rd. Federal law requires states to deliver certified electoral college results to the vice president, serving as president of the Senate. So what that means is the president and the vice president of the United States and our balances of power, they are part of the executive branch. So the vice president is actually over, obviously is over the Senate. So other parties by the fourth Wednesday in December in the year 2020, the date falls on December the 23rd. Now here's where things get interesting. What happens if a state misses that deadline and it can't agree on a way to handle faithless electors? Or there is a dispute over the election winner between the state lawmakers and a governor, for example. So what happens here is, according to this statute, this requires the vice president of the archivist of the United States to compel Secretary of State or equivalent officers. Here's where it gets interesting. Now, this is all kind of legalese language, so I'll break it down to you in television dramatic language. So what happens is by the 23rd, if there's no decision, the Speaker of the House then becomes this equivalent officer. Can you imagine a Nancy Pelosi president sitting in until a decision can be made? So of the state send the certified, of that state to send the certified election results to Congress using direct mail or messenger sent to a federal judge in the state in question, that would be hilarious. Can you? Oh my gosh, I hope we don't get to that, but that would just be hilarious. Madam President, Speaker, Secretary of, could you just imagine Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, becoming the equivalent? All right, guys, so that's pretty much going to wrap it up here for the Studio B information.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for today's look at election 2020, an ever-changing in real-time event that has everybody kind of on the edge right now. But nonetheless, if you look below this video in the description section, for all of you guys wondering what alt tech I am on, those links are below this video, as well as the information that we covered here. You can find links to that, and you can go there and explore it a little bit more. But guys, I want to thank all of you for your continued support as we continue to do this kind of special election 2020 coverage. So appearing there on the screen, that would be the channel icon for YouTube specifically. You guys can click on that to subscribe, as well as to get notifications when there's additional content here on the channel, as well as when I go live here on the channel. So I would appreciate you guys giving me a subscribe, and don't forget to click that like button, and I will see you guys right there behind the camera in the next update.